Season 5 of Apple TV's Slow Horses is based on the 5th novel in Mick Herron's Slough House series, entitled London Rules. This is a reference to a common saying among spooks in the Slough House novels.
Moscow rules, watch your back. London rules, cover your ass.
The book is a story of bad actors, tragic accidents, political rivalry, and Jackson Lamb having a sleepover at Roddy Ho's house. So what is the story of London Rules, and what direction did Season 5 go with the adaptation? This video will contain spoilers for book and seasons 1 through 5 of Slow Horses. The opening line of the book is,
"The killers arrived in a sand-colored jeep and made short work of the village."
5 men in mismatched military gear arrive at a village. It's said that the last time trouble had called here, it had come bearing swords. But this time, the killers used the method of massacre all too common in the modern world. They shoot and kill 12 people, including a young boy. The closing gut punch is the reveal that this massacre doesn't take place in a foreign village or some lawless slum. It's in the middle of Derbyshire. These killers are certainly not striking at the heart of central London with their first terror attack. In the show, Abbotsfield isn't a rural village. The shooting takes place at the Bush Fair shopping centre in Harlow, which is about a 40-minute drive from Aldersgate Street, rather than the 3-hour grind to Derbyshire. In the show, this massacre is carried out by a lone wolf who is then killed by the same people who gave the killer a gun. It would seem these killers are not so archaic and disorganized as the killers in the book.
This crew is good.
To address the elephant in the room, without question, the most significant creative liberty the show has taken with the source material so far is the villains in Season 5. To put it simply, the villains in London Rules are North Korean bad actors. There are 5 of them in a van, and all of them have automatic rifles. But these are not masterminds, they're teenagers. They know so little about the world beyond the North Korean border, and that's the key reason why they blindly follow their destabilization checklist. The interactions in the van between the villains are reminiscent of the kidnappers from Season 1 of the show. They argue constantly and are basically making things up as they go along. That's why so many of the things they do seem random and chaotic, making it hard for the park to stay one step ahead. In Season 5 of the show, the Abbotsfield killers are Libyans. On top of this, the leader of the bad actors from the book was completely omitted from the story. Instead, Roddy's honey trap girlfriend is the mastermind of the group. It's rather difficult to adapt a story where the villains are clowns with guns if you want to transform said clowns into strategic masterminds. She's not there! Because of this, Season 5 unfortunately has some of the messiest plotting of the show so far. There are several reasons why this may be. As is common with the show, they tend to add action to the plots of the novels. The books tend to have bursts of action followed by lengthy stretches of dialogue and introspection from the characters. The show, on the other hand, needs to keep the pacing up episode by episode rather than chapter to chapter. The show, in all likelihood, would drag if the filmmakers kept things 100% faithful to the source material.
When you take a book and try to turn it into something that can appear on the screen, you've got a lot of hurdles to jump over. I'm writing from the inside of a character's head. I can tell you what they're thinking and what they're feeling, which is not something you can do on screen. You have to find a different way of presenting that state. So there are all sorts of difficulties like that. And there are other very practical ones. Any number of practical things come up from, actor availability to what the weather is like at the time of filming, that sort of thing. I'm perfectly happy that this should be going on the way it does, because to demand absolute fidelity and to just want every event page by page to be presented on the screen would be deadly dull, apart from impractical and probably impossible in many ways. As far as I'm concerned, the books exist and they're there, and if readers enjoy them, that's great. The screen version is something different. It's a different thing, and there will be times where it parts company with the original text, and I don't think that's anything for viewers, even those who very much enjoy the books. Nothing to get upset about. Enjoy it for being the different beast that it is.
As Herron so aptly put it just there are other practical reasons for changing the source material, such as budgeting. Regardless, the villains in the book are North Korean bad actors. In the show, they're Libyan masterminds. For the sake of simplicity, I'll be using the likeness of the villains in the show to represent their more or less equivalents from the book in this video. The 5th person of the Abbotsfield crew in the book is named Chris, but Chris basically just drives the van. And then he gets shot. The other major change from book to season 5 of the show was Louisa Guy's characterization. In the first episode of Season 5, River throws a humble little office party for Louisa. There's this shot of River lugging grocery bags of snacks up the stairs. The shot is reminiscent of River trudging up the stairs of Slough House with Hobden's bags of rubbish from the very first episode of the show. 5 seasons later, and River is still stuck doing the same tedious tasks. The party in question is to celebrate Louisa taking a 6-month mental health break. However, Louisa later tells River that she's not coming back to Slough House. River desperately tries to talk her out of it and kisses Louisa, almost like the noble prince kissing the princess in a fairy tale. But this is not a fairy tale, and River just makes things awkward for both of them. River is an incredibly active, chivalrous character, always seeking to storm the castle and save the day. But a chivalrous knightly character isn't always the solution to people's problems. And River is less King Arthur and more Don Quixote. Louisa tells River, "I need to be around normal people and have a normal life." River recognizes that he needs to let Louisa figure things out on her own. The scene ends on an incredibly bittersweet note.
So I should give you some space. Fine, I'll call you in a few weeks.
No, I think it's a more don't call me, I'll call you sort of space.
All right. I'll see you when I see you then.
It's a rough place for these two characters to end on, because they've been through so much together. At the end of book in Season 3, River and Louisa shot their way out of a building after Ingrid Tyranny ordered their deaths. Like many characters in this series, River and Louisa have been in a true life-or-death scenario. Yet things are so awkward between them, and the relationship is so indeterminate. Then again, River said it was meant to be a 6-month break. A lot can happen in 6 months. The actress who plays Louisa, Rosalind Eleazar, in all likelihood was written out of Season 5 so that she could work on a different project.
Season 4, phenomenal, just like the rest, and I'm so excited for Seasons 5 and 6. Is there anything you want to leave our audience?
Yeah, I mean, watch Season 5. I also think Season 5 is going to be fantastic. If I'm remembering the right season. They're all good.
In Season 5, she makes...
Tell me everything. Just tell me the whole thing.
She does something that's quite drastic in Season 5, and that again is to do with her grief that she's not processing.
This was a fairly wise season to do so, since Louisa is not as prominent of a character in the story. We'll see if Louisa ends up returning to the series. But to make a long story short, Louisa does not leave Slough House like this in the books. In fact, she has a rather prominent role in the 6th book. Moving beyond the alteration to the villains and availability of the actors, let's start getting into the book properly. Like all Slough House novels, the book is split in 2 parts. They're entitled Cool Cats and Hot Dogs, respectively. Following every cold open chapter, Mick Herron paints a vivid illustration of Slough House. He comes up with the most inventive ways of walking the reader through the building and describing what the building is like. In Book 6, the lights of the city tell their story and pass through Slough House. In Book 7, a hypothetical real estate agent is trying to sell Slough House and not having a good time with it. In London Rules, Dawn tells the story of Slough House as the sun rises. So when Dawn reaches Slough House, a scruffy building whose ground floor is divided between an ailing Chinese restaurant and a desperate newsagent's, and whose front door, made filthy by time and weather, never opens, it enters by the burglar's route, via the rooftops opposite. The second and final chapters of each novel contain some of Herron's most poetic passages, and poetry is where Herron's roots lie as a writer. Roderick Ho is looking and feeling fantastic. Roddy knows that he's Lamb's #1 agent, and his work never gives him any issue. His love life, on the other hand, has been less than stellar. By that, I mean it's consisted mainly of systemically dismantling the lives of men with attractive significant others before stalking and thinking about approaching the women they used to date. In Book 3, Roddy's prospects brighten. He thinks that he has a shot with Louisa. Bitch is ripe. Bitch is ready. Okay, so maybe Louisa isn't his type. It's her loss anyway.
We don't have a Christmas party. And if we did, we'd have it before Christmas and not at a chickadoo.
Maybe Lamb only told the elites.
Lamb told you about it, though, didn't he?
I asked him where the Christmas party was and he gave me the details.
Right. See if you can work out what happened.
In Book 4, however, things change. Roddy Ho has got himself a girlfriend. Kim, his girlfriend, was established in Book 4. Roddy never visits Kim in the book, so it's unclear at first if she's real. In Book 5, Mick Herron follows Kim's name up with his girlfriend almost without exception. The characters do the same in the story almost every time her name is brought up. It's really funny. In the show, Roddy chats with someone named Kim, but Ko claims that he's messaging a bot.
Who are you talking to?
Kim.
That's a bot.
What?
That's a bot. I used to provide behavior analysis for these kind of programs. They tell you what you want to hear. Manipulate you. For scams.
The bot in question may have been used by the Libyans in the show to extort information from Roddy.
Well, your last relationship was with a bot, Roddy. We think it was profiling you, identifying weaknesses, so that they could manipulate you.
Regardless, Roddy is in high spirits on his way to work, and is busying himself playing Pokémon GO in the streets. Book 5 was written when Pokémon GO was at peak popularity, and quite a few people were doing stupid shit whilst playing. That's when all of a sudden, a silver Honda mounts the curb and smeared Roderick Ho like ketchup across the concrete apron, broke him like a plastic doll across its bonnet, so all that was holding him together was his clothes. This happened so fast, Shirley saw it before it took place, which was as well for Ho because she had time to prevent it. Shirley pushes Roddy out of the way of the car, which was headed straight for him. Or was it? Roddy is indignant with Shirley and frustrated that she fucked up his attempts to catch a Bulbasaur. When Shirley presses the matter with Lamb and the other slow horses, they are similarly unimpressed by the wild tale. This is, after all, coming from Shirley Dander, who's not known for being the most sober of individuals. But Shirley is adamant that she saw what she saw. Someone is out to kill Roderick Ho. Shirley Dander had 62 days. 62 drug-free days. Count 'em. Somebody might. Shirley didn't. 62 is just a number. In the books, Shirley Dander is infamous for being the resident cokehead of Slough House. Lamb fired her in the 3rd book when Shirley literally bumped a line right before briefing Lamb about the facility where the Grey Books were kept. Shirley is always searching for a high, desperate to add some excitement into her life. But Shirley didn't have a problem. She had a lifestyle. However, Shirley has managed to stay off the Bolivian marching powder for 2 months. It's not an addiction. She can stop anytime she wants. Right? Perhaps Shirley is staying off the drugs for her own sake, or perhaps it has something to do with Marcus. In Book 4, Patrice killed Marcus when he was at his desk in Slough House considering selling a pistol. Whatever cleanup crew got rid of the body painted over the blood spatter on the wall where Marcus was shot. A bad job had been made of it. Shirley has to sit in her office and look at that section of wall which is just a bit too bright and fresh looking to match Slough House. A paint job which serves not to cover something up, but to further highlight that the blood was covered up in the first place. Marcus and Shirley were close, and they were close in a way which snuck up on both of them. It's not like they decided to be partners in crime, they just worked well together. A recurring theme in these books is characters going through near-death experiences, yet being on bizarre terms. Co-workers, friends, partners. Whatever it may be, a hole is left behind when one of the slow horses is killed. And Shirley, for one, isn't going to let even someone like Roddy get hurt. Shirley thinks about Marcus in the book. In her mind, Marcus tells Shirley, "You go, girl." As if a potential hit on the most insufferable slow horse and a village massacre weren't enough, the current political situation in London is its own powder keg ready to blow. London is currently in the middle of a mayoral race. This is Dennis Gimball. Gimball is a conservative politician who shares a close alliance with his wife, Dodie. What policies Dennis pushes are strengthened in the media by Dodie's newspaper. And the current massacre at Abbotsfield is the perfect fuel for Gimball's mayoral campaign.
Do messages come back to you from parties who think they see themselves, you know, the prominent politician I think you blew up, whose wife was a newspaper columnist.
I get told by my publishers that there are some strange messages of, on Twitter and the like, of people who've enjoyed those. Michael Gove apparently tweeted that he was really enjoying the books. Up until London Rules, he's been very quiet since then.
Doty gives Dennis an overview about Jaffrey and a potential scandal the two might stir up in their introductory chapter. Despite these two being devious characters, there's genuine trust and intimacy between them. They were a team. This was how they did things. In the book, it's mentioned that Dennis and Doty are rather adventurous in bed, and that Doty is largely the top in the Gimball power couple.
I love that woman.
Oh, she totally pegs you, doesn't she?
Though what the sex life of an aspiring politician has any relevance to the current situation is anyone's guess. Running as mayor of the West Midlands is Zafar Jaffrey. Jaffrey is a textbook man of the people style politician. He dresses relatively informally for a politician, and shows genuine interest in the questions his constituents ask him. In the show, Jaffrey is the incumbent mayor of London seeking re-election, but this is not the case in the book. Both Gimball and Jaffrey are seeking a first term, and they're running for mayor of their respective cities rather than against each other. It'd be a shame if some scandal came along to fuck up either politician's public perception. Back at Slough House, Lamb gives one of his pep talks to the slow horses. Something along the lines of, there are madmen with guns shooting up villages, but sit down and do nothing because you're all idiots. The usual stuff. Following this, Shirley asks Louisa and Catherine to back her up as she explains her story about the van almost hitting Roddy. Lamb hears them out but ultimately dismisses the notion, insisting they not get our knickers in a twist about a badly executed 3-point turn. With Lamb off the table, Shirley asks Louisa if she would help to keep an eye on Roddy. Obviously not a notion that Louisa is particularly enthused by, but as they talk, they notice River watching a uniquely disturbing video.
Christ. The bomb that went off killed a load of penguins. Fuck.
Penguins, said River. Some bastard lobbed a pipe bomb into the penguin enclosure at Dobsey Park. That's near Chester. 14 of the little buggers died. Most of the rest will too, probably. 12 dead in Abbotsfield, and now this. River says that they called the penguin enclosure the watering hole, which seems to briefly catch Coe's attention. While she initially wasn't on board with the idea, Louisa ultimately agrees to help Shirley follow Roddy, and she also gets River to pitch in. Before Shirley heads out to spy on Roddy, she dares to head into Lamb's office alone. Shirley asks Lamb for Marcus's gun. At the end of book 4, Marcus had a gun that he was considering selling to a man named Dancer Blaine. Assuming the cleanup crew didn't take the gun, odds are Lamb still has it.
It conveniently disappeared, remember, so I didn't have to fill in 50 fucking forms explaining why you let Coe execute a prisoner over here for the radiator.
But Lamb tells Shirley, putting you in charge of a loaded gun would be like giving a 3-year-old a box of matches. It might make for an entertaining 10 minutes, but I'll have HR on my back before you can say, fuck me, smells like bacon. But there's another layer to this. At the end of Book 4, an assassin named Patrice raided Slough House in an attempt to kill David Cartwright and Bad Sam Chapman. He succeeded in killing Sam and also killed Marcus. When Patrice stormed the building, they had absolutely nothing to fight back with. The best thing they had at their disposal was the tea kettle, which Sam almost managed to drop on Patrice's head. But agents assigned to Slough House don't get access to Regent's Park, and they sure as hell don't carry sidearms. However, Marcus's Glock becomes a powerful symbol in the series following his death. It's a bit like Anakin's lightsaber in the Star Wars films. The pistol trades hands throughout the series, and it takes on different meaning depending on the context in which character is wielding it.
Wait, calm down, it's not fucking Star Wars.
But Lamb keeps Marcus's Glock in his desk drawer with his own Heckler & Koch, and he isn't a gun librarian. After Shirley persists, Lamb makes a rather distasteful joke at Marcus's expense about dodging bullets. A blow which is low even for Lamb. In his defense, every version of "there's the door" that he could come up with wasn't doing the trick. When it becomes clear that Lamb won't budge, Shirley asks what they should do if they get attacked again.
When that mad French bastard stormed this place, we were fighting him off with a fucking kettle. What if we get attacked again?
The kettle got replaced, didn't it?
Over at the park, MI5 are busy searching for the Abbotsfield killers. But the higher-ups are also looking into the mayoral candidates after being pressured to do so by the PM. In the show, Dodie Gimball is writing a story which exposes that Claude is a serial adulterer, something that was established in book in season 4. Claude cheating on his wife Claire is something he thinks about when the reader is in his head, and he kicks himself when he checks out some of the attractive women at the park. Claude's relationship with his wife is interesting in the books. Yes, he's a cheat. But Claude also looks up to his wife like an angelic being who guides him morally. Anytime Claude compromises in the books, he tends to think of Claire. Nobody blackmails Whelan in Book 5. As is often the case, the politics and boardroom politics are more complex in the novels.
There was a comment in Slow Horses, which I started writing in 2008, about departure from the European Union, which when I wrote it, I intended to show that the characters discussing this were completely crazy, you know? And as it turns out, we ended up being led by completely crazy people, and they engineered this precise situation. So I'm not particularly happy about that reputation in a way, because I mostly write about catastrophes of one sort or another. To have them coming true isn't something that pleases me a great deal. But I write largely about incompetence and failure and stupidity, and for the past decade or more, they've been the prevailing condition under which the UK has been governed. So,
But you do know, or at least were contemporary with some of them, perhaps at Oxford?
I was there at the same time as, yes. I mean,
yeah, you weren't one of Simon Cooper's chums, but you saw them across the quad, or?
Indeed. I mean, I came from a state school in the northeast. I think I didn't really move in the same circles as Boris and his chums. No, not at all. But they were visible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell was at college at the same time as me as well. I mean, it really was a golden generation, you know.
Claude Whelan has a problem, and this problem was provided to him kindly by the PM. In Book 5, Dennis Gimball was a key player in the Brexit vote. Currently, he is his party's sole MP, but it's been suggested that he's returning to the party. The PM is characterized as a rather insecure man, and he knows that Gimball is gunning for his job. Jaffrey is a special advisor to the PM, and the PM hopes that Jaffrey becoming mayor of the West Midlands strengthens his own standing, as the two are ostensibly close personal friends. Whelan is asked by the PM to ensure that Jaffrey is clean, because he's been hearing rumors. In the show, a man named Tyson Bowman is Jaffrey's chief of staff, but in the book, he's Jaffrey's so-called bagman. Tyson has a criminal background with a face tat to boot. But Jaffrey has taken him under his wing, and evidently can look past the surface-level details of Tyson's character. The show gives Tyson a scar rather than a face tattoo. However, it seems Tyson has not distanced himself entirely from the criminal world. An investigator named Barrett, who works for the Gimballs, has film of Tyson near the shop of a man named Dancer Blaine. Blaine is one of those Breaking Bad-style career criminal characters in the books. You go to him namely if you're looking for a fake identity or a gun. So kind of like Ed the Disappearer meets Lawson.
Do you know why they call me Dancer? Because they're into ballroom dancing? And also because I sense danger and dance right around it.
And the dancer thing isn't just a nickname. Blaine has some skills on the dance floor, though who would serve as his dance partner is another matter. Blaine has a fairly prominent role in the spin-off novel Nobody Walks, and although he didn't appear in Book 4, Blaine was the character that Marcus was planning to sell his Glock pistol to. In the show, we saw Marcus sell the gun to Blaine.
From Dancer Blaine?
How do you know Dancer?
I ran an undercover gun up.
Well, tell her, he's a good guy. He doesn't sell to gangs.
Or just gentleman collectors, is it?
He doesn't sell to street gangs.
Thank you.
No, he does sell to organised crime. Unlicensed bodyguards.
Dodie is planning to use her tabloid column to discredit Tyson and by extension Jaffrey, while Dennis is giving a speech alleging terrorist connections to Jaffrey. In the book, Jaffrey has a brother named Kareem who was radicalized and killed in Syria. The double scandal could prove damning to Jaffrey, bolster Gimball's position, and set him up to take over as PM down the line. So Claude and Diana work together to see if there's weight to the Gimball's allegations, as well as if Dennis and Dodie have their own skeletons in their closet. Jaffrey also gets wind about what the Gimballs are up to, so he decides to send Tyson to see if he can gently steer Dennis in the right direction. Claude didn't do so well in book in season 4. It was admittedly his first week on the job, so Diana managed to get the better of him. Taverner oversees MI5's internal police, and she's a Regent's Park veteran. Whelan, on the other hand, worked across the river from Regent's Park, where the Intelligence Weasels lived.
Oh, hello, Molly.
Hello, Weasel.
Weasel's a term they use to refer to those of us that use gaming programs to refine long-term strategy. That's actually what that means.
You'll always be a weasel to me.
Claude is someone who conducts psychiatric evaluations of foreign notables. He's not experienced in, say, responding to bombs going off in shopping malls. Before he was transferred to Slough House, J.K. Coe worked across the river, just like Whelan. Book 4 says the Weasels spent more time with a mouse in their hands than they did interacting with humans. So it was no surprise, they were all fucking weird. But Whelan drew a line in the sand in the last book and made it clear that he wasn't going to let Diana puppet him around forever. But in book 5, it's not Claude's first week anymore. He's come into his own since book 4, and he knows how to play the same kinds of games that Diana plays, much to her shock and perhaps admiration. Diana Taverner, the second desk in charge of field ops, asks Emma Flyte if Jaffrey is clean. Emma became head of MI5's internal police, nicknamed the Dogs in the previous book. Emma and Taverner have bad blood between each other. Emma is a straight-arrow former police officer who doesn't fit well in a world of deception and schemes. In book 4, Emma was ordered to take an agent into custody who discovered a clue related to the West Acres bombing, an order she grudgingly carried out. Also, at the end of the book, Taverner asked her to take River into custody, but Taverner lied to Emma by making her think she was arresting a man River was impersonating earlier in the book named Adam Lockhead. That's how Patrice managed to crash into their car and kidnap River. Emma wasn't told that she'd be bringing someone in from the service or that a fucking assassin was after him. Emma had disappointed Taverner by failing to nail her colors to Taverner's mast, and Diana had a robust approach to alliances, one which refused to accept the notion of a neutral. If you weren't for her, you were fair game. As she so frequently does after being hounded by Taverner, Emma confides in an old ally, one whom Emma knows when she served on the Met. This is Devon Welles. Welles had a small role in book 4. They didn't directly do too much in the story, save for helping Emma arrest River, which is probably why Devon wasn't cast in season 4 of the show. Welles breaks a couple of ribs in the car crash, which Emma brings up spitefully in the phone call she has with Diana at the end of the book. Taverner forgot that Devon was even there. Similarly to Marcus, in the books, jokes are made at Devon's expense about being a diversity hire character. But Devon has pretty thick skin as a former member of the Met and a current dog. In the books, Devon is actually a guy. Devon is the first major character in the series to be gender swapped in the show's casting. In the book, Lamb says that he likes cops and that you know where you stand with them. In the show, Lamb says,
I slipped my fiver. Let's show you a dead body.
And Lamb isn't half wrong. Devon has a history crossing lines that Emma Flyte might not. Devon makes a rather subtle appearance in a Slough House spin-off novel called Nobody Walks. In the novel, a negligible favor that Devon did for Tyranny may well have earned him a ticket to the park. At the start of the novel, Devon is a detective sergeant in the London Met who speaks to the main character, Tom Bettany. At the end of the story, it's revealed that Devon stole a small piece of evidence from a crime scene for Tyranny, though Devon in all likelihood had no idea that Tyranny was the one he was ultimately answering to. Welles didn't lift a drug bag or steal a watch or anything like that. All he took was a blue plastic lighter. It barely even counts as evidence, right? Who could ever miss it? But this missing piece of evidence gets a character in the story to incorrectly suspect foul play at a crime scene, which is exactly how Tyranny expected the character would react. It's implied that as a reward for this, Tyranny got Nick Duffy, head of the Dogs before the events of Book 3, to recruit Devon Welles to the Dogs. Detective Sergeant Welles crossed one line for Tyranny before. Why not keep him in her back pocket in the event that she wanted him to cross another line for her? But it's not just the shady shit that cops sometimes pull which humanizes Devon as a cop. He also will cut people a break when they need it. In a Slough House novella called The Drop, down on his luck MI5 agent John Batchelor has somehow managed to become homeless, due to divorce settlement as well as bad investments that he trusted his brother-in-law to handle. John has used up the last of the places that he can ask to crash for a night or two, and just needs someplace warm to keep out of the snowstorm. Exhausted of alternative options, John gets into Regent's Park with a 2-hour temporary pass and uses one of the bedrooms. These are single rooms with a bed for people pulling all-nighters at the park, but at least it's warm.
I've always been interested in writing these books in the way that we, as a state and as a community, let down those who've served us. So the whole notion of things like pensions and housing often comes to the fore in these books. These people don't have enough money to live on. They don't necessarily have secure roofs over their heads. And that worries me, and that's often one of the things that I write about.
Hours later, Batchelor is awoken by none other than a dog named Welles. Devon justifiably chews John out, but he ultimately takes pity on Batchelor and agrees to let him get rested up for just the one night unless someone else needs the bed. So Devon and Emma make a unique cop duo. They're a bit like Kate and Reggie in Sicario, straight arrow by-the-book cops navigating a world of politically motivated conspiracy and deception. However, Welles contrasts Emma as her partner by being willing to compromise from time to time. Devon and Emma talk about a key point of conflict connected to Jaffrey. His brother Kareem was radicalized and ended up being killed in Syria in a missile strike. On top of that, the park know about the dancer Blaine business, because in the books, Blaine is a small-time informant for the park. So Emma's quest to make sure Jaffrey is clean isn't going so well, especially since Dodie is apparently planning to allege possible connections between Blaine and the weapons used by the Abbotsfield killers. Someone with more resources than Emma is going to have to get the Gimball power couple to shut up. After Shirley and her tentative partners in crime leave Slough House for the day, Catherine heads into Lamb's den for a direct dialogue. As he often does when speaking to Catherine, Lamb pours the two of them a measure or two of Talisker. This is an act which seems cruel, and it kind of is, but there's something more to this gesture from Lamb. Maybe it's a dare that Lamb knows Catherine won't succumb to. The book says so much of his life seemed to consist of testing other people's limits. Presumably, he'd grown bored testing his own. Because this is a world where you're meant to watch your back and stay completely sharp. But Lamb doesn't care and indulges in drinking and smoking constantly. In the books, Lamb and Diana actually share a smoking habit. In the first book, it said that Taverner could make a pack last a month. But she starts chain smoking in the first book due to the stress. When Lamb and her meet in the novels, she usually succumbs to the temptation to have a smoke. Ingrid Tierney is said to drink gin and tonic in the books, but there's a weakness that she feels she flirts with when she drinks. Lamb enjoys indulging around other people who work tirelessly to keep their impulses in check. As Catherine and Lamb discuss the Roddy situation, a coughing fit overtakes Lamb. In the show, this is kind of worse than what we've seen from Lamb.
You're supposed to be cutting those out.
But in the book, this is not just a coughing spell. It's described as a great heaving earthquake, heavy enough to rattle not only his own body, but some of the bodies he'd buried. Catherine watches blank-faced and wonders what she'll do if Lamb dies then and there. She thinks she'd had a boss die on her before. She'd get through it if this one died too. Catherine asks Lamb when was the last time he had a checkup with a doctor. Lamb is dismissive of Catherine's concerns, leading to this incredible exchange of dialogue. In season 3 of the show, Lamb actually went to a checkup with a doctor, who was less than enthused by Lamb's bad habits.
How's the drinking?
Fine, thanks.
No, I mean, how much are you drinking?
Oh, I don't know. 2 or 3 bottles a week.
Wine?
Whiskey.
I thought we talked about this.
Oh, it doesn't affect my work, and besides, I've got fuck all to do, which is well within my comfort zone.
This is a service medical. There's a limit to the amount of units you can consume a week. Smoking?
I quit.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't had one for, 27 minutes.
By some miracle, your blood test came back okay.
There you go. You see, I'm a fucking titan.
You need to do some light exercise, an hour's walk a day, and watch what you eat.
I think the time has passed for that, don't you? Dodgy Vindaloo and some steep steps should finish me off. Can't think of a better way to go.
In the show, Catherine says the cigarettes are killing Lamb, to which he replies, "That's why I smoke 'em." In the show, Ho lives in a flat, but in the books, he has a full-out house. Roddy's parents are well off and live away from London in the books. River and Louisa tail Roddy as he takes an Uber to a club in Stockwell. Shirley rendezvous with River and Louisa, and the trio spy on Roddy as well as Kim, his girlfriend. Whilst on paper this is a classic spy scene, it isn't glamorous. For one, they're drinking whilst on surveillance. Because they were on an op, they were drinking mineral water. Or would have been. But it cost so much, they decided to have beer instead. If they were going to be scalped, they may as well feel some benefit. The dialogue, as well, is laid back and casual rather than strategic. There's this funny moment where Louisa and Shirley collectively gloss over Tom Hiddleston, proposing a title intro for a TV series where he walks away from the camera. Louisa claims Tom Hiddleston's bum transcends gender preference. Eventually, Roddy and Kim leave the club, and to Shirley's relief, Kim doesn't spend the night at Roddy's house. Shirley proposes staying in the car to survey the house, but River and Louisa are less than enthused. Nothing happened at the club. Maybe Shirley was just seeing what she wanted to see. The two vote for Shirley to take the first watch and that she should watch down the street. Then the bastards leave her for dead. However, Kim makes a mysterious phone call in the cab after not joining Roddy inside. She says, "Make it quick. He's harmless." Ho suddenly becomes aware that someone is in his house. In the show, he clears the house with this elaborate sword, but he relies on his own physical prowess in the book.
It's physically impressive.
However, his intruder is no assassin. It's none other than Jackson Lamb. Roddy is puzzled as to why Lamb is there. Lamb has made himself at home, helping himself to host champagne. Lamb claims that he's not there to protect Roddy and that he's making sure someone else is.
Give her a sword and a helmet. She'd look like a brave little hobbit.
Lamb calls dibs on the bed and heads off for a piss. Later, after falling asleep on the floor, Roddy gets the same sensation of someone being in his house. He wonders if Kim, his girlfriend, changed her mind about spending the night and is there to surprise him. But it's not Kim. This is June, one of the Abbotsfield killers armed with a knife. But before he can silently kill Ho, a light went on, the room went white. The figure turned and faced the nightmare in the doorway. Jackson Lamb, teeth bared, naked belly pendulous over a grubby pair of boxers. Lamb squirts bleach in June's face before swinging a hammer-like fist into his chest. June trips over a recumbent Roddy and falls through the window to the street below. Having spotted June entering the house with a set of keys, Shirley decides to break in by punching through a window. The timing of this punch lines up with June falling through the window. It's described like she won a prize at a fairground attraction. Someone then fires a rifle towards Shirley, and June is dragged into the van before being driven away. Shirley sees Lamb upstairs from the window. Lamb? At Ho's? Naked? Whatever. Lamb throws the bleach bottle at the van before telling Shirley 10 out of 10 for attendance, but null fucking points for getting the job done. In the book, June lands on his neck after falling out of the window. He's dead then and there, and the Abbotsfield killers retrieve his body before wrapping June in cling wrap. Taverner speculates that June may have survived the fall. In the show, the assassin sent to kill Roddy does survive the fall. And the obvious question of bringing him to the hospital is brought up before the crew ultimately kill him and burn the body. The show has a recurring theme of extending the action sequences. What amounts to 1 or 2 minutes of action in the book is turned into a chase scene and skate park brawl with Shirley and the injured assassin. It's just the nature of how the books are versus the show. One is trying to spice things up and keep the story exciting. The next morning, Slough House is visited by the one and only Diana Taverner. Diana rather unceremoniously visited Slough House for the first time in season 4 of the show. In book 4, Claude is the one who stops by Slough House and personally confronts Lamb. Kind of fitting. He is the new first desk after all. But in the books, Taverner has never had occasion to stoop as low as to visit Slough House. This is a big moment in the story, and a sign that the stakes are ramping up. Taverner confronts Lamb on not reporting the attempted hit on Roddy upwards to her. He He has the same excuse as always.
Well, ordinarily I would have done, but there were special circumstances.
Which were?
I couldn't be asked.
That's not a special circumstance, Jackson. That is your prevailing condition, and this time it might just prove terminal.
Taverner then reveals that the bullets fired at Roddy's are the same ones used by the Abbotsfield killers. Lamb dismisses the idea of ISIS being behind it. They don't do plots, after all. Meanwhile, Taverner has the dogs escort Roddy to the park for interrogation. Taverner tells Lamb that blackmail won't save him this time, but she may not be 100% right about that. Because at the end of Book 3, Diana plotted with Peter Judd to have Lamb killed. They sent his Peter Cushing-esque enforcer who is said to have buried 1 or 2 bodies for Judd in the past. A sleek man with piercing brown eyes called Seb, who is possibly Judd's butler, possibly more.
Timing's a little off, but when a friend drops by, my door is always open and my wine is waiting to be uncorked. I've got this, Seb. Give us some moments, would you? Seb? You want me to follow him? Warn him off a return visit?
No, but I'll need you to make some calls.
I could pull up the phone records for everyone in this building, starting with the man listening at the door. And of course, your phone records.
Lamb has a file which was stolen from Taverner's facility in Book and Season 3, which contains information about the park using black site prisons in Eastern Europe to disappear inconvenient people. This protocol is brought up in Book 5, and Coe says the park still use it, if you can believe him. At the end of Book 3, Lamb withheld giving Taverner the file. If the information goes public, Judd would be caught in the blast. So Taverner calls Judd, and the two send Seb to steal the file. The second chapter of Real Tigers follows a wandering spirit passing through Slough House. In the final chapter, a ghost, or someone as silent as a ghost, climbs the stairs of Slough House. This spirit makes its way to Lamb's office, where he's snoring like a farm animal. Rain begins to fall on Aldersgate Street, the grateful sighing of the pavements. Rather than phasing through the door, the ghost in PJ's machine opens the door to Lamb's office with a gloved hand. This job is no more than the washing of another bottle. Were it not for the fact that Lamb's eyes are open, and that in Lamb's hand sits Lamb's gun. Lamb killed Seb and had the slow horses silently dispose of the body. This attempted hit on Lamb is something which isn't brought up in Book 4 between Diana and Lamb. But Lady Di is under no illusion. Lamb knows that she was the one who sent Dracula to kill him, but he's keeping that detail close to the chest. And he still has that waterproof file somewhere. So as much of a threat as Diana is, Lamb has plenty of cards to play himself. Regarding Peter Judd, his character doesn't make an appearance in the 5th book. He is, however, in Book 6 and Book 7, which will both be adapted in Season 6 of the series. Let's just say that Diana has made 1 or 2 deals with the devil that Judd helped her make. This may end up coming back to bite her in the end. Season 5 also makes it clear that Diana may be in over her head in terms of where she's placed her chips.
Have to get back to the park.
The Zimbabweans would rather we closed the books on the supposed murder of a British journalist. The Chechens would like some assets unfrozen. And there's a Libyan conglomerate who would like compensation for oil revenues lost due to the instability we unleashed when we foolishly removed their charming leader.
And I would like you to leave my house.
You've postponed your resignation 3 times. There's never a good moment to go, but when you finally make the leap, I can help you find an extremely soft landing. So do bear in mind those issues I raised.
I can find my own landing.
However, Diana has an ace in the hole herself, which is a bit closer to Lamb. Taverner knows the secret which rewarded Lamb's Slough House, this being that Lamb killed Charles' partner and faked his suicide. In the books, this is a secret that Lamb keeps close even from someone like Molly, whom he trusts more than most. Lamb suspects that Catherine already knows, but he hasn't told her the truth. And in the finale of Season 1, Lamb lied to Catherine's face about Partner's death, claiming that he only gave Partner the gun. This is a skeleton in Lamb's closet that is likely to break Catherine should it ever be revealed to her. Claude Whelan gets word that Roddy has arrived at the park, and that they have brought him to the infamous cells below the building. But rather than turning up the heat right away, they decide to let him sweat in the cells. A good, if obvious, ploy. Sooner or later, if you were in one of the downstairs rooms, with its single plastic chair whose legs weren't quite of equal length, you would start to wonder why the floor was ever so slightly off level, and what the tap in the corner was for, when there wasn't a basin there. Just an open drain to allow runoff. After a few hours' contemplation, this would start to seem a pressing matter. However, this is Roddy Ho, and he misinterprets all of these psychological intimidation methods, because in his mind, he's being placed into protective custody. Someone tried to kill him, after all. However, he wonders what good the water spigot in the corner is good for being so close to the ground. And the chair is wobbly. The dogs forgot to bring him his energy drink, though if he got thirsty, he could drink from the tap. Mick Herron says that Roddy's lack of self-awareness causes him suffering, but where someone like Shirley can recognize her anger issues and go to AFM, Roddy hasn't noticed how much he's suffering as a character.
There are some states where it is just fun to write about, and Roddy's lack of self-awareness and Shirley's lack of self-control. Right? They're both different ways of having fun with a character, but both of them suffer because of it, and Shirley recognises it, and she's starting to learn from it, I think. Roddy hasn't noticed how he's suffering.
Yeah.
I think Roddy's slightly different from other characters, I mean, apart from his general delusion. I mean, in that when he says things that are funny, or that I hope the reader will find funny, he doesn't know they're funny.
No.
Whereas the other characters, when there are one-liners involved, they think they're being funny, you know, which they're all aware they're doing it, but Roddy isn't.
He's so disillusioned with himself, and even though he's one of the funniest characters to read, he does not know that he's being funny. All of Roddy's self-obsession is what makes it so entertaining to be in his head. Regardless, the park's methods of interrogation do not seem to be working on Roddy. In the show, they say his response to the room has been unusual. So long as he isn't spilling the beans to the park, the slow horses can't be sure what shit he stepped in and have to put it together themselves. At least they have a few hours before anyone will bother interrogating him. In the show, several dogs lock down Slough House and keep everyone at gunpoint. But in the book, Emma is the sole person to lock down Slough House. To the show's credit, it is a little weird in the book that Emma doesn't get any backup. Sure, this is Diana's shit errand which she slapped on Emma's plate. In both the book and show, this is essentially treated like babysitting. But Emma is still head of the dogs. She could have gotten at least a little bit of backup. In season 5 of the show, Emma does a lot of work on the ground and reacts to terror attacks live. But book Emma doesn't do most of her own wet work. In the book, Diana says the Met use the same forensic contractors at the park use half the time anyway, so they don't usually need to do their own forensic investigation. They can just rely on what the Met has. Regardless, Emma, the straight arrow beat cop who happens to look like a catwalk model, is now the slow horse's babysitter. Emma's first conflict comes with Ko, who's listening to his iPod. Emma and Catherine's exchange from the show is taken straight from the book.
You're familiar with the Slough House brief, I assume? Mm-hmm. Well, then you'll know that some of us have issues. Get to the point. Listening to music or podcasts has the effect of calming Mr. Codan. What happens if he doesn't listen to something? I'm not sure. We've never prevented him before.
In the show, it's just a regular phone. Even back in 2018, basically no one used iPods anymore. Rest in peace.
So fine that I really want to make you mine.
Emma grudgingly allows it, but then Shirley decides to pop out for provisions. In the books, Shirley is always hungry and out to get snacks. There's this really funny chain of events in book 3 involving a chicken baguette passing hands and getting morphed into something else along the way. In an interview with Declan Hughes, Mick Herron says that he would write entire novels where the characters argue about what's in the fridge if he could get away with it.
Sam Leith, reviewing you, suggested that you share with Le Carre the one recognition that espionage is in large part a matter of office politics rather than fancy gizmos and gadgetry.
Well, that's I don't know anything about fancy gizmos and gadgetry, so office. I have worked in an office for all my working life, so that's the experience that I draw on and apply to the fiction that I'm writing. So my spies are essentially sort of office drones. I write. If I could get away with it, I'd just write whole novels about them squabbling over what's in the fridge, and that would satisfy me.
How much did you know about espionage before you started?
Only what I read in Le Carre. I hadn't seen James Bond.
And genuinely, all the lengthy arguing and putting the puzzle together scenes are what make these books so entertaining. Shirley ducks past Emma and heads out for snacks. This later turns out to be 2 bottles of wine and 1 family-sized bag of Haribo. As they continue to bicker, Ko has been quietly listening to the radio through his iPod. He states that he thinks they've got a problem. As was mentioned previously, Ko is not a particularly talkative character in Book or Season 4 of the series. While Book 4 is the first mainline Slough House novel to feature Ko, he actually has a history laid out in a spin-off novel as well as a novella. These supplemental stories are worth exploring to better understand this taciturn Emperor Palpatine cosplaying desk jockey. Ko wasn't always hoodied and closed off like a moody teenager. Something happened to Ko which made him this way. To make a not-so-long story short, The List is a novella which follows MI5 agent John Batchelor. Batchelor works as what's called a milkman. Basically, he checks up on retired spies. Many of them defectors from the Cold War who supplied useful information to the service. It's pretty punch-a-clock work for a spy, hence the name Milkman. Batchelor finds a list of names and is trying to figure out what it means, but it has to be off the books. So he goes across the river and recruits psych eval worker J.K. Ko's help. Ko got his degree in psychology and went into banking for the sake of the salary. A lot of characters in Herron's books have a background in banking. The main character in the standalone Slough House spin-off novel Reconstruction used to be in banking. Sid Baker also worked at a bank before the 7/7 bombings compelled her to join the service. Like Brexit, Mick Herron's opinion on banking is pretty apparent. But Ko left banking when the work grew dull and joined the service. Every boy at some point dreams of being a spy, right? Perhaps Ko wanted to do some good in the world, corny as it may sound. It's Ko's first week on the job, so being asked to complete a clandestine task for someone who works for the park is equal bits exciting and dangerous. For help, Ko goes to none other than Molly Doran. Molly gave a lecture in a room of MI5 recruits which Ko attended. But Molly was Molly, so most everyone found her awful, earning her the nickname Voldemort. But Ko likes Molly. She gave a brisk and intelligent lecture and clearly knows her stuff. Ko awkwardly applauded only to realize he was the only one clapping, so gave up after 2 claps. Molly isn't usually enthused when characters like Shirley call her for help, but Molly seems more fond of Ko. He throws some shade back at Molly when they speak on the phone, which is the kind of thing that Molly finds amusing. Ko catches himself off guard with how much shade he threw back at Molly and starts plotting a new life to escape the Dragon Lady's fury. Fortunately for Ko, however, Molly laughs it off. Ko's best clue about the list of names is that they have German connections, and to uncover further information, Molly ends up directing Ko to Jackson Lamb himself. That's right. Ko's first time setting foot in Slough House was not when he was assigned there. Ko is guided through Slough House late in the night by Catherine. The novella says Catherine would be a dead ringer for a woman in white, a lady with a lamp, had she worn white or carried a lamp. As the two make their way up to Lamb's office, Ko briefly glimpses the hypothetical cat from the opening of Dead Lions. The list takes place shortly after Book 2. Ko meets with Lamb, but Lamb sees straight through Ko and doesn't want to play the game of whoever really sent him. Catherine and Lamb have some sharp dialogue after, and Ko is ultimately given the information that he needs to give John. Though there's more to the list of names than appears on the surface. So in the list, Ko meets 2 service legends, Molly and Lamb. Not bad for his first week on the job in Psych Eval. In Book 5, Molly remembers J.K. Ko, saying that he's a pleasant young man. However, Lamb tells Molly that he's had a personality transplant since they last met. And that's because of what happens to Ko in a novel called Nobody Walks. For a spoiler-free version of what happened to Ko, check out the Ko section of my previous video, because I would highly recommend Nobody Walks if you're interested in Slough House DLC. Nobody Walks is a Slough House spin-off novel following a former MI5 agent and dog named Tom Bettany. At the start of the novel, Bettany's making a living lugging meat in France. Bettany's son Liam dies seemingly after falling from the balcony of his flat in London. But the circumstances are mysterious. The book is some parts private detective, some parts revenge, and the main character is your classic John Wick-style ultra badass. To make a long story short, Ingrid Tierney offers Bettany information on a silver platter and has Ko be the one to do it. Knowing who he's working with after Ko lets Tierney's name slip, Bettany needs to verify the information and that he isn't being set up. So, he collects a ton of equipment and does the unthinkable to Ko. Even more fucked, Bad Sam Chapman, who died trying to protect Ko and the other slow horses at the end of Book 4, helped Bettany get his gear and provided him Ko's address. Though, fortunately for Bad Sam's heavy conscience, he never found out about this. Tom Bettany is a strange character. He isn't meant to be particularly likable and causes a lot of damage to the characters in the story. Bettany ambushes Ko at his flat, ties him to a chair, covers his entire flat in black plastic wrap, and strips him naked. Bettany, too, is naked, and he ruthlessly threatens Ko with his own electric carving knife. He tells Ko, "I work in meat."
What happened while you were handcuffed?
A man threatened to cut open my stomach. He had an electric carving knife.
Bettany says that he'll start with the toes, but Ko has nothing to hide. He genuinely just did what Tyranny asked. Bettany ultimately doesn't touch Ko with the blade. All Bettany spares Ko is a moment's pity, and he moves on. But this action utterly traumatizes Ko. He's alert of everything, feeling like at any moment someone is going to attack him. And he feels a sense of shame that soaks through to Ko's pores. Tyranny later says she suspects that Ko disgraced himself. Because when Ko awoke naked in the chair to find Bettany in his flat, Ko shit himself, petrified with fear. Rather than facing death with courage, he was terrified, and living with that knowledge is deeply violating. Ko now showers twice a day, taking every opportunity he has to scrub away at the filth he perpetually feels covered in. Following his torture, the novel says there was a new, reborn J.K. Ko. This so-called reborn Ko wears a hoodie and jeans ripped at the knees all the time. Even in Book 6, when it's snowing like crazy and he probably should be wearing something a bit warmer. However, warm was sleepy. Warm was soft. Warm lost you focus. Then bad things happened. He wasn't sure it was heat his own demons thrived on. He thought they preferred the cold. Ko tries to be short with Tyranny when they next meet in person, but he quickly realizes that he has nothing to use as leverage. And he is nothing. Tyranny just tells him to go home. Get some rest. Later in the book, Ko gives Bettany Tyranny's route to work for a confrontation between the two. So Ko gets a smidge of payback in the end, though Diana ultimately got the last laugh. Ko had been working for the service for 11 months at this point, and the novel takes place before book in season 3 of the series. Just like John, Tyranny used Ko because of how much of a small fry he is. But as so often happens for the characters in Mick Herron's books, the blunders of the big fish end up getting the small fries flushed down the toilet. Ko is sent to Slough House in Book 4, partly because he's creeping everyone the fuck out. Ko becomes prone to panic attacks, which are set off by alarms. When he inevitably has to clean up the mess of black plastic wrap that Bettany left behind in his flat, a sound in the basement by his trash bins causes Ko to freeze. Londoners are used to rats, but he'd had his foundations rocked, and everything was a threat. In the third act of Book 5, when a shootout is going down, Ko thinks vehicles were weapons now. Everything was a weapon. Ko starts listening to music on his iPod constantly, because it's the only thing that can take his mind off that traumatizing night and drown out the sound of that electric carving knife. In the weeks and months following his ordeal, Ko had tired of most things. Food lost flavor, and alcohol served to make him throw up long before he'd achieved any anesthetized state. If he'd had ready access to weed or stronger, he'd have given it a shot. But acquiring illegal substances demanded social interaction with people he could imagine providing alarms. Ko often takes on a glazed-over expression that in anyone else, River would have interpreted as high. Ko, he suspected, didn't get high. Just reaching a level would be a stretch. Ko's music of choice is Keith Jarrett, and he unconsciously develops a tic where his fingers play an invisible piano. Whoever broke the news to him told Ko, "Slough House might be a better fit, we think. Fewer alarms." If you're familiar with the show, you know that Ko doesn't do too much in season 4. The key thing he does is help piece things together in think tank scenes with the characters. Ko gets incredibly wired in and focused when he's working through a problem. Despite his PTSD, Ko is a well-educated problem solver who knows how people work and remembers small details well. In Book 4, Ko remembered specific details about an operation David Cartwright was involved in called Cuckoo, which helps the characters learn more about Frank Harkness. And of course, at the end of the story, Ko executes Patrice. Ko kills him in such a passive way, and it's framed essentially as though he was doing Shirley a favor. Herron plainly writes, "Then Ko shot Patrice 3 times in the chest." Maybe this indifferent violence has something to do with what happened to Ko in Nobody Walks. Ko was disgraced and traumatized, but he was also denied any substantive payback against Bettany. There's an internal rage described in Ko. Perhaps a ruthless murderer being right there for the killing was too good of an opportunity for Ko to pass up. A chance to let off some steam, as it were. When Shirley holds Patrice at gunpoint in the book, she says, "I don't want him to be alive when Marcus isn't, and he should die." Catherine and Ko both agree, however, that Shirley shouldn't be the one to do it. Evidently, Ko agreed with Shirley's assessment of the situation. And for some reason, this cold-blooded killing results in Ko sleeping dreamlessly in his flat for the first time since Bettany's visit. He also thinks he's long overdue redecorating his flat, or throwing all the furniture out the window. Ko is a character who has been referred to as a psychopath in the show. It's often said that businessmen are commonly psychopaths. Put as much stock into that claim as you like.
So what do you do?
I'm into, murders and executions mostly.
But if Ko is a psychopath, he's the kind who managed to blend in for the most part. Towards the end of Book 5, Ko straight up asks Shirley if she thinks he's a psychopath. She dodges the question and says that he's the expert. When she turns the question back on him, he says, "Not sure. I might be." But when Ko killed Patrice, it seemed to calm him down, eerily enough. His hands stopped trembling as much at the end of Book 4. In Book 5, Ko thinks, not long ago, he wouldn't have been able to do this. The most he'd been able to bear was long stretches of unscored piano music, improvised melody that had him drifting like a leaf in a rowboat's wake. But that was fading, had begun to do so once he'd fired 3 bullets into a killer's chest. Strange, the things that ease tension. This one wasn't likely to crop up in self-help books, but you couldn't argue with results. In Book 5, Catherine thinks it wasn't that he was a bad person, more that bad things had happened to him, and there were bound to be consequences. Plus, of course, he might be a bad person. No point pretending otherwise. Getting back to Slough House on lockdown, Ko from a radio report on his iPod reveals that there's been another attack by the Abbotsfield crew. Well, sort of. A bomb was left on a train. However, the bomb didn't go off. It was discovered and disabled. The bomb itself was based on a recipe found online. Anyone with access to the internet could have made it. That's when Ko reveals the steps that he believes the Abbotsfield killers are following, counting them off on his fingers. Fingers which seem more steady than usual for Ko. 1. Destroy the village. 2. Poison the watering hole. 3. Cripple the railway. This is all part of a destabilization strategy. It's from a working paper the Weasels produced post-war. A strategy for destabilizing a developing region, should the need arise. Lamb says he opens his trap maybe once a month. When he actually says something, he's usually sure of his ground. What seems to confirm it is the poison the watering hole step. There are plenty of bars called the watering hole, but if they bombed one of those, they'd say they bombed a bar. In the book, the destabilization strategy is referred to as the watering hole paper. This plan seems somewhat archaic.
Somebody's poisoned the water hole!
Yet these terrorists are following the plan. Strangely, the show doesn't lay out how many steps there are in the destabilization strategy early on. Consequentially, there are more steps than there are in the book, and some of the 180s they pull feel like they're making shit up as they go along.
Destabilization strategy. Cold War. 1. Compromise an enemy agent. 2. Attack the village. Number 3 is disrupt the transport. Number 4, seize the media.
What is number 5?
Assassinate a populist leader.
Compromise an agent. Attack the village. Disrupt the transport. Seize the media. Assassinate a populist leader.
The next on the list is blind your enemy.
Sorry to disturb.
Hello, Devon.
Blind your enemy.
No!
It's honey. It's something with honey.
Yeah, honey trap. We've already done that one.
They do it again, you see. They do it again. It's like the bees.
What's the last action on the list?
Attack a place of worship.
There's gonna be a sting in the tail.
Okay, are you making some of those up?
Nope, they're all real.
The book, however, establishes early on that there are 5 basic bullet points. This plot point is reminiscent of the film Live Free or Die Hard. Ironically, in that film, 5 assassins in a van are sent to kill a hacker who knows too much and is indirectly involved with the destabilization strategy. In that film, the terrorists are following a 3-step plan to destabilize the nation.
Jesus Christ, it's a fire sale. It's a 3-step systematic attack on the entire national infrastructure. Okay, step 1, take out all the transportation. Step 2, the financial base and telecoms. Step 3, get rid of all the utilities, gas, water, electric, nuclear, pretty much anything that's run by computers, which today is almost everything. So that's why they call it a fire sale, because everything must go.
However, they have dozens of men, guns, and extensive supercomputers and hacking equipment. These guys are legitimately trying to bring a halt to an entire nation. But the villains in London Rules don't have those kinds of resources. Or magic, basically. The villains in the book basically have guns. And that's it. They threw a pipe bomb into a zoo.
That could have been anyone.
What do you mean it could have been anyone? Name me one person who's got a grudge against penguins.
But all you need is a ticket to do that. Their train bomb was made from a recipe online, and it didn't even work. In the book, Lamb says, we're talking about a bunch of mindless bottom feeders whose general ignorance to our way of life is tempered only by their indifference to human suffering. Coe says that the next step in the destabilization strategy is to assassinate a populist leader. Since they're working off the Abbotsfield crew being bad actors, the Slow Horses figure they'll go for either Dennis Gimball or Jaffrey. They are the most obvious targets, after all. So after Lamb holds Flyte at gunpoint with Marcus's Glock pistol, they tie Emma to a chair with Shirley's handcuffs. The group then split into 2. After losing the coin toss, River is sent with Coe to protect Gimball. They take off in Ho's car, much to River's delight. Louisa, meanwhile, heads off with Shirley to Jaffrey's public event. Louisa in the novel introduces Shirley to a game called Yellow Car. When you see a yellow car, you say yellow car. But Shirley somehow has trouble with the rules. Calling out yellow cars randomly becomes a recurring joke in the series. Mick Herron mentions in the acknowledgements that the rules were laid out by John Finnemore in his BBC 4 radio series, Cabin Pressure.
Yellow car.
What?
Nothing. Just yellow car.
Why did you say yellow car?
There was a yellow car.
Why did you say yellow car?
You've got to say yellow car when there's a yellow car.
Why?
That's how you play yellow car.
I'm not playing yellow car.
You're always playing yellow car.
But he notes that American readers should understand that this is a British game devised for British conditions. Attempts to play it in, say, New York City will result in madness and death. Obviously in the show, Louisa was not around to partner up with Shirley. Instead, Catherine serves as Shirley's companion in Season 5. In the books, Catherine is similar to Lamb. She tends to be in her office when major events of the story are going down. For instance, in Book 2, Roddy was the one who sprinted to the building where the villains were. In fact, Catherine was the one who told him to haul ass. Catherine is the one who runs to the building in Season 2 of the show. This was likely done to make her feel more directly involved in the plot. Despite the alteration to the source material, the show makes the most of Shirley and Catherine as a duo.
It's like a non-alcoholic beer. It's got no alcohol.
Is it beer?
Yeah, with no alcohol.
I'm not a scientist. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I can get you beer if you want fucking beer.
No, but I don't drink, you remember?
Oh, you want to go inside and blow some lines of baking powder? Baking soda?
There's this moment in the show where Shirley hands Catherine her unfinished bottle of beer. This is a microcosm of Catherine as a character. She often takes on other people's burdens at an expense to herself. Beyond the beer bottle that Shirley hands to Catherine, there are also unfinished glasses of wine on the table, a further reminder that Catherine needed a drink without taking one. Later in the episode, Catherine throws her water bottle at Jaffrey to get his security to escort him off the stage.
Why do you hate motorists, you wanker?
Perhaps Catherine wouldn't have been as ingenuitive had she finished Shirley's beer. In the show, the Abbotsfield crew have a Mission Impossible Rogue Nation-style zip rifle disguised as construction gear. But in the book, they're just planning to go in guns blazing. On paper, they're targeting Jaffrey just like in the show, but the timing of events goes down differently. In the book, the event with Jaffrey is at a library in Birmingham, and the big speech that Gimball is giving takes place in actual Slough. The building where the event is held reminds River a little bit of Slough House, though it's being given a fresh coat of paint. Because of the lengthy commute by car, the reader gets some pretty entertaining dialogue with Louisa and Shirley, as well as River and co. The third episode of Season 5 of the show is entitled Tall Tales. A tall tale is understood as a story with fanciful elements. The story of John Henry, for instance. A good story, but admittedly hard to believe. At the end of the episode, Lamb spins a tale about his time in East Berlin during the Cold War. Lamb often refers to suits and Joes in the books. Taverner has always been a suit, but Lamb himself is a Joe to the bone. A lot happened to Lamb in Berlin. Molly's time in Berlin cost her legs in the books, and it seems to have cost Lamb something as well.
One of the characters says of him somewhere that when the wall came down, meaning the Berlin Wall, when the wall came down, he built another one around himself. He's still really living through the Cold War. He has a past which involved being an undercover operative in some way during the Cold War.
Mick Herron says that he never lets the reader get inside Jackson Lamb's head, but that's not entirely true. For instance, in the iconic chapter where Lamb and Taverner meet at the canal, the reader is following Lamb's perspective. However, Herron only reveals what Lamb does and says. He never lets you know what he thinks or feels.
There are moments in this book where I sort of say what's going on in his mind. I gave that up quite quickly. By the time I got to book 3, I was aware that we don't go there. We don't find out what Lamb is thinking. We don't find out what he's feeling. For that very reason, I think if we knew that he meant every word he said, he would be intolerable. There would be no affection for him at all. It would destroy him. Similarly, if we knew that he was making it up or just playing, then he would lose something of his edge. So it's a line I negotiate by pretending it isn't there, essentially. I am quite keen on keeping his history a secret one, but it is true that the temptation to reveal more does rise now and again. Hinting at the backstory that was there, even if it wasn't clear to me what it was, became a very good way of giving depth to a character. It's easier to create an enigma than it is to create a fully rounded person. Creating an enigma, you just hint at stuff that's going on. If you want to create somebody about whom you know everything, then you've got a lot of work to do.
On occasion, Herron puts the reader in Molly, David, and even Tierney's heads. No matter how menacing they may be in the narrative, Herron has no issue pulling the mask off of a Machiavellian witch like Ingrid. But Lamb is different. He's so enigmatic to everyone, with someone like Molly chipping away at him for more details about his past. Molly tells Catherine that she deals in information. She calls it spook currency. And she's building up something of a collection with the information that she has on Lamb. The Last Dead Letter is a short story from Mick Herron which went along with the 2020 version of Slow Horses and is in the collection Dolphin Junction. In it, Molly Doran recounts a story with Lamb pitching in and confirming details. It follows a forbidden spook love affair in East Berlin during the Cold War. Lamb is in the story, but he has a subdued role. He's a background character, one who makes a decision which has a big ripple effect. In the show, Lamb tells a story about East Berlin which is highly specific. He claims that the Stasi picked up a Joe of his in East Berlin. The Stasi were East Berlin secret police that patrolled the city before the fall of the Berlin Wall. They were infamous for torture and information control. Back in Season 2, Lamb described giving away an agent's cover by referring to the agent as she. The Stasi knew that there were 3 possible culprits, so they hung all of them with piano wire to be sure. If you tie an iron to the legs, eventually the head comes clean off. This story in the show was actually poached from a different story in the 6th book, but that is a story for another day, and one that I will not forget.
Berlin was the ultimate lockdown. Spook Zoo, they called it. Stasi were the real deal. Yeah, fucking monsters. Loved to torture people, took pride in it.
Lamb slyly describes using improvised weapons to clue everyone in the room in, and explains how the Stasi tortured his Joe by burning his feet.
They got an aerosol can and a lighter, and they burnt all the skin off the soles of his feet and then made him stand. for days. And the Stasi can see that his body would give up before his resolve does. They'd have happily killed him. But then they wouldn't have got what they wanted, which was a name.
The agent in question didn't give out, so the Stasi kidnapped another agent that they were apparently in love with.
He had met a woman, local. He got on serious, maybe not love, but the closest thing a spook can come to it. It's a fucking lonely life, Devon.
The Stasi tortured her in front of the agent so he could watch, but he wouldn't give them the name, not even when she screamed.
Ich bin schwanger.
What's that mean? I'm pregnant.
He begged them to stop hurting her. He pleaded with them. But he still wouldn't give them the name. And it was only when the screams stopped and the woman and the baby, their baby, were dead, that the Stasi realised the only reason he wouldn't give them the name was because he didn't know the fucking name.
After they escape in the show, Catherine says to Lamb,
That story, was that you? Were you the one being tortured?
Big fucking jar Standish, I made it up.
The finale of season 5 is entitled Scars. At the end of the episode, Lamb takes off his socks for the first time and reveals that his feet are hideously burned.
In the finale, we see Lamb's scarred foot, which Will told me was your wife's idea. And that suggests that the story that Lamb told about like the torture was true, possibly, but it is up in the air of how much of it could have been true. So how much of that story do you think is true and what happened to Lamb?
We know one thing. His feet are scarred, aren't they? Was there the woman? Was it him? Or was it a friend? Or was it a colleague or a Joe? We know that he was interrogated, and we know that he was somewhat tortured. That much we know now because of the reveal. In one draft of the script, it was Standish at the end who saw the scars on my feet. And we really thought about that. It was my wife who said, if we see the scars on the feet, it should be the audience that see them and not the slow horses. So we still keep it in the world of, obviously in the world of slow horses, it's still a hidden thing. It's ambiguous.
This creative decision was silly, but it highlights the difference between writing a book and creating a TV show.
In a sense, I've handed this over. Although I do have, as I say, involvement with the production team, I've handed it over to the producers, to the writers, and to the cast. And the cast are entitled to lay claim to much of their characters, because after all, they are inhabiting them. Gary's doing a wonderful job as Jackson Lamb, and I love it, and I really enjoy seeing him do it. But it's separate from my Jackson Lamb,
right?
And it has to be. It has to be, because I'm writing something that is words on a page, and he is presenting something that is a character on a screen.
Gary Oldman is delivering an on-screen performance, and consequentially, he needs to convey meaning through dialogue and visual means. Lamb is far more mean-spirited in the books.
He takes great delight in saying hurtful and damaging things to other people. In any given situation, he'll always say the worst thing possible. But he does that for effect.
Lamb says shit which is insanely out of line all the time in the books. But you can tell there's more to him than that. So to make a long story short, Emmys for Gary Oldman, the show has to jump through hoops to put the books to screen, and Jackson Lamb's feet now have a tragic backstory in the show. In the books, I think it's still safe not to read too much into it. Getting back to the books, the characters don't use improvised weapons after Lamb tells a story. Lamb just goes to the can, comes back with a gun, and handcuffs Flyte to her chair. After the other slow horses split up and leave Slough House, Catherine fixes tea for herself and Emma. The slow horses escape in the show using improvised weapons, and they handcuff Devon and another dog together. In the book, it's more like Crazy 8 in Jesse's basement from Breaking Bad. Emma is handcuffed and going for basic persuasion to try to talk her way out of the cuffs. At one point, Catherine has to put a teacup to Emma's lips for her to drink it. The book says that this was a potential Hannibal Lecter scenario, but the moment passed without dental assault. Season 5 actually references the Silence of the Lambs as well.
Good evening, Clarice.
Welcome, Clarice.
No, Roddy.
Emma is adamant that if someone is going to assassinate a populist leader, they should be reporting it back to the park. But Catherine says this is Slough House. Lady Di isn't going to act on what they bring her. The park is just going to cover it up, like always. Lamb, knowing how the game is played, tells Emma that she's a Joe, not a suit. They ultimately let Emma go, but they leave her in a tough spot. Emma avoided Slough House or sacking in the last book, but now she's in trouble since the lockdown is on her. Later, Lamb says that he's going to pair Emma with River when she's assigned to Slough House, but Emma tells Lamb, "I'll shoot myself first." No matter how anything goes down after today, Emma is never going to let herself end up in Slough House. She has no issue turning in her 2 minutes notice. Emma will just have to settle for honorary slow horse. Emma leaves Slough House with steam coming out of her ears.
No. Fuck.
The slow horses acted like children overrunning a classroom and handcuffed the head of MI5's internal police to a chair. But she can't escalate it upwards. Taverner hates Emma, and Claude has his own shit to deal with, which the PM handed him. Emma again has that straight arrow scout energy of wanting to follow the rulebook. Emma thinks villains were assholes who needed locking up, and cops were the folk to do it. Here on Spook Street, the option of arresting the bad guys wasn't open to her. What she really wanted to do was bang heads together, corral the slow horses and have each of them hobbled, boiled down into glue. Needing someone who can keep this close to the chest, Emma calls Devon and recruits his help. Just like in the show, Whelan gets a Tom Wamsgans-style confrontation against the Gimball power couple.
I think you need to go fuck yourself. And if I ever see you in the same room as Shiv again, I will pay man to break your legs. And if I go to jail, which I won't, so be it.
But Claude goes for persuasion at first. He tells Dennis that he isn't interested in party politics. And it's true. Claude would much rather be putting all of his attention into hunting down the Abbotsfield killers. While you wouldn't know it looking at him, Claude has resolve as a service member. When thinking about the West Acres bomber after discovering his passport, Claude's opinion was that what they should do was get rid of it and cheat the bastard out of posthumous fame. But alas, number 10 is pushing from above, so Whelan is on blackmail duty. Dennis and Dodie refuse to fold. And finally, Claude says enough. 2 words get them to shut up. Dancing bear. In the show, Gimball's campaign seems to be built around immigration enforcement and preserving Great Britain, as it were.
Only this time it's not a plague of rats. No, this time it's a plague of illegal immigrants, nor aware the rigging of our national identity.
Methinks the Donald's in order.
Whelan apparently has proof dug up that Dennis is an immigrant who was later put up for adoption. Again, with the Tom Wamsgans thing, part of the appeal with this scene in the show with Claude is seeing him trying to act like Diana, when at heart, he's nothing like her. The show probably wanted to jazz the moment up a little bit, but Book Claude has something altogether simpler in his cliché manila envelope. Dancing Bear was a club that Dennis Gimball frequented years ago. The club itself was closed down a long time ago, but it catered to clients with certain proclivities. This is why Dancing Bear had discreet cameras set up. You never know when someone who frequents your club might prove worthy of blackmail. Claude has a video of Dennis Gimball wearing a dress and singing karaoke at Dancing Bear. The dress in question is the kind of thing you'd see a woman wearing in The Great Gatsby, the kind with gloves climbing high up a woman's arms. It's nothing too kinky or taboo, but, you know, it's a picture of a male politician seeking a chance at being elected mayor of London in a dress. Dennis tries to say it's not illegal and that nobody is hurt by his fetishes. Claude then drops the nuclear bomb, as he puts it in the show. I doubt anyone will claim that. No, I think what most people are going to do is laugh, Dennis. I think they're going to laugh their fucking hearts out. Afterwards, Whelan was ashamed of saying that. The whole sentence, not just the profanity, and knew that Claire would have been disappointed. But it came naturally in the moment. Things are not looking good for Dennis and Dodie, the latter of whom thinks they should just play ball with Whelan. However, Dennis believes they can spin this shit in their favor. Dennis isn't harboring some dark secret. MI5 and the PM are bullying him. It was a little bit of dressing up. Have we not come far enough as a society to accept that? Hadn't Mick Jagger once declared that no Englishman needed encouragement to dress up as a woman? So he could be a pioneer, could break the mold. Except They'd make him a laughingstock. Brexit hero admits pervy leanings. Crossdresser crosses floor. The headline refused to adjust itself no matter how hard he tried.
Fucking hell. Fuck.
Co and River arrive in actual Slough, and Shirley and Louisa make it to the library in Birmingham. Both pairs don't know exactly what they're supposed to do. Lamb tells Catherine all they need to do is sound the alarm if anything untoward goes down, but the odds of anything happening are low to begin with. Shirley and Louisa have a bit of friction between them, on account of the whole leaving Shirley for dead thing. Because of this, Shirley waits outside and gets dibs on Louisa's monkey wrench. She unprofessionally gets fish and chips and a hot dog before going on lookout. And not a moment too soon, because Jaffrey is the intended target of the Abbotsfield crew. In the book, the Abbotsfield crew are not established as characters till the end of the first part of the novel. As was mentioned before, the killers are incredibly ignorant to how the wider world works. However, they have been given their orders by the supreme leader of North Korea himself. It's as though they've been given divine purpose, and the killers believe that there are other crews who will strike all throughout the world. The mad American had woken the tiger, and now he and all his allies would pay the price. The world would learn that there were many different ways of being locked and loaded. Chris is the driver of the van. On is a pretty quiet member of the group. And Danny is a true believer in North Korea and its supreme leader. The man in charge of the group is named Shin. However, Shin is not a particularly assertive leader, and to say the least, things have not been going as planned. When the Abbotsfield characters are introduced, tension is high, because June's body is wrapped in cling wrap in the van with them, and it's beginning to stink. The crew are filthy, hungry, and they're beginning to lose faith in their plan working. Shin, as well, seems to be going through his own crisis of faith. And Danny, for one, is ready to assert his dominance over the group. No one who's led the group like Shin should be their leader. Danny notices Shirley eyeballing their van and thinks that she might be on lookout. Shin, however, says she's eating chips. So would she be eating chips if she was on surveillance? It might be a good disguise. Somebody saw you eating chips, they figured you were hungry and that was all. But they saw you hanging around outside a building, they might think you were keeping an eye on it. So he thought it best to keep an open mind. However, Shirley begins to approach with the monkey wrench up her sleeve. Danny is planning to kill Shirley, but Shin feebly tries to make him wait. This is the moment where Danny realizes this is his moment. Danny gets combative with Shin, suggesting that he intentionally fired wild in Abbotsfield and didn't kill anyone. He tells Shin, "You killed a chicken coop, and you shot up the sky." Shin doesn't have much to say other than, "I am the king." It's all falling apart, and Danny makes it clear that he's going to kill Shirley and storm the event anyway. Ko climbs up the building to get away from the crowd. Whilst looking about, he notices Dennis Gimball in the alleyway having a smoke. At the same time, River is on the ground and realizes that his slacking off at work is a sign. Slough House isn't what River joined the service for. It isn't what his grandfather wanted for him. So River decides that it's time to quit and move on from Slough House. Gimball is in the alley having a cigarette, despite publicly quitting. But this is one of those moments where the man truly needs a cigarette. Dennis realizes he's insane to think people would back him. Nicotine to the rescue. Just give in to Claude's blackmail. You still have a shot at the election. That's when he's confronted in the alley by Tyson. Then River came down the alley too, and things got complicated.
He, as usual, will see an opening and he'll jump straight through it without really thinking about what's on the other side. So in many ways, he's quite an easy character to write, because I know I can have him do things that, aren't necessarily well thought out. He's basically carrying on being River. He's a bit more grown up than he used to be, but even so, he's not making considered decisions.
In the show, the paint can falls in a Rube Goldberg machine-style way. The outline that the filmmakers drew of the paint can falling looks very similar to Kevin McAllister's battle plan from Home Alone. And if you've seen the film, the inspiration is pretty apparent. The book, on the other hand, is far less rated R Home Alone and more like straight up Final Destination. One moment they're standing there, and the next, the paint can was left on the scaffolding where Ko observes the fight. Co believes it was foolish for someone to leave it up so high, but doesn't think much of it. After watching the fight, largely standing there like a lemon, Co decides to go down to help River, since he knows that River would do the same for him if he were in Co's shoes. And just like that, his foot accidentally knocks the can off the 30-foot ledge to the alley below. Oh shit.
Oh boy, here I go killing again.
A couple of minutes after this happens, the Abbotsfield killers see the news of Dennis Gimball's death along with everyone at the Jaffrey event. Hey, we don't have to kill him. A different populist leader has conveniently been assassinated just now. How convenient! Shirley approaches the van with Louisa's monkey wrench up her sleeve, having deduced that the van houses the Abbotsfield crew. As they flee, Shirley throws the wrench at the van. She takes this as a win. Louisa is far more concerned about the possibility of the van being filled with civilians rather than terrorists. She shouldn't have lied. Co would have been less trouble. For a while, Herron leaves the reader in the dark as to exactly what happened after that paint tin fell off the ledge, but the picture is glued into River's eyelids. If he wasn't driving, he'd sink back in his seat and close his eyes. But if he closed his eyes, he'd see it again. That tin of paint hurtling out of nowhere and damn near taking Gimball's head off. In the book, the tin's lid stays on after hitting Gimball. They could have used that in their advertising, thought River irrelevantly. The paint manufacturers. Although it wasn't necessarily a point in its favor, as presumably there'd be moments where you'd want the lid to come off without hassle. When you were painting a wall, for instance, rather than killing a politician. So probably not the hook for an advertising campaign. Anyway, not an important issue. What was important was they'd left the scene. Characters in these books oftentimes have these irrelevant trains of thought which don't have any relevance to the current situation, but they're funny regardless. For instance, in the third act of Book 4, when Catherine retrieves Lamb's gun from the shoebox he always keeps it in, she wonders, when did Jackson last buy a pair of shoes? River is freaking the fuck out, driving Ho's car like it were made of glass. Co, on the other hand, seems perkier than usual. He's wearing his hood down, and there's more color in his cheeks. River realizes that Co reacted similarly when he killed Patrice. This guy is a fucking lunatic. Co insists that it was an accident, and it basically was. But it adds to Co's eerie pattern of getting people killed. He's beginning to rack up a score, as River puts it. And worst of all, River realizes that this probably will get covered up, as Co asserts. Shortly after Gimball's death, Devon Welles arrives at Slough House, having been called in by Emma. Similarly to the show, Devon's first order of business is getting the gun that Lamb pulled on Emma. However, the show and book take different approaches to Lamb and Devon's dynamic. In the book, Lamb went to the bathroom and came back with the gun, the implication being that he hid Marcus's gun in the cistern before Taverner arrived. Like I said before, Emma doesn't have any backup in the book, and it's a bit weird. But in the show, Devon goes, "Bitch, please."
If you're looking for the gun in the cistern, already dealt with that. Cistern's the first place I look. Learned that in the Met, actually.
So Lamb doesn't have a gun in the show, leading to the fight scene following Lamb's tall tale. It's a simple case of they have guns and we don't, leading directly to an action sequence. In the book, however, this is a battle of words.
A lot of the thrills and excitement of reading spy fiction doesn't come from stuff happening, it comes from what people say. I mean, you don't read a Le Carré novel for the car chases, you read it for the intellectual energy that's going on there. My favourite scenes to write are the scenes that are just dialogue. I love the parts where Lady Taverner is meeting Jackson Lamb on a bench by the canal, and she says what's going on, and he interprets it. And that for me is the great fun of it.
Devon tries to act like he has more sway than he does, but the lockdown alone diminishes Emma's bargaining power. Lamb acted like Shirley heading out for booze and gummy bears was no big deal in dialogue. But the second Emma fucked up the lockdown, Lamb knew whatever he got up to would be addressed second to that. Characters like Lamb and Tyranny work this way. They use characters like chess pieces and benefit from the actions of others indirectly. As Devon and Lamb talk, Lamb assumes the same feet on his desk posture that he always does. Because Lamb knows that he's holding all the cards. If Emma were going to call in the dogs, she would have done it by now. Instead, she kept the matter close with her and Devon, meaning that Devon isn't active right now. He's covering his ass. In the book, on top of diversity hire jabs, Lamb calls Devon Cornwall, Dorset, and Hampshire, referring to the countries adjacent to London, including Devon, by extension making fun of Devon as a foreigner. It's kind of funny just how politically incorrect Lamb is all the time in the books. It makes sense why the show toned him back a bit to vibe better with an audience. The others slowly trickle in as Catherine and Lamb talk to Welles. River and Co. do not have their story particularly straight, and Lamb doesn't seem particularly convinced. But Lamb seemingly brushes the oddities aside and heads off with Devon in tow to get him into the park. After Lamb leaves Slough House with the new dog on his leash, the penny drops and everyone else realizes what the duo who are in Slough have done. These characters have screwed up or been framed in these books, but this is the zenith of cosmic fuck-ups. The blood of an MP with a good shot of becoming PM is on their hands. River and Co. were fucked. They're fucked.
They're gonna kick us out of MI5, aren't they? Yeah. They're gonna kick us out, and they're gonna put us right into prison.
Just stop fucking eating cherries!
Following Gimball's death, Claude and Diana go into damage control mode. Whelan's PM-motivated blackmailing is not likely to go down well, especially since Dodie was a direct witness to the blackmailing in spite of Claude's efforts. In Season 5, Dodie and Tyson seemingly both disappear after Dennis's death. The debacle is solved through a recorder that Dennis was using when he was killed. In the show, Dennis doesn't smoke, but Book Dodie is out for revenge. Dennis was gone. They had killed him. They would pay. Diana recognizes that Dodie will attempt to connect the park to Dennis's death. So she and Claude decide the better alternative is to let her run the story about Jaffrey. The connections to dancer Blaine appear to be true anyway. PR-wise for the park and the PM, it's certainly better than a blackmailing scandal. So Taverner goes to confront Dodie in her private car, whilst Claude checks to make sure that Jaffrey deserves the media frenzy coming his way. Right before Taverner meets Dodie, she's told that Co and River were in Slough when Dennis was killed. River was right that the park would figure it out one way or another. The question is, what will Taverner do now that this card has fallen into her lap? Before he calls dancer Blaine and inquires about meeting, Claude reviews the details of Emma's interrogation of Roddy. When he does, he recognizes something. The kind of something that turns you white as a ghost the second you read it. Jaffrey meets with the distraught Tyson, instantly recognizing that something went cataclysmically wrong. But as much as Jaffrey used Tyson, he genuinely cares for the man and doesn't want to feed him to the wolves. So Jaffrey gives Tyson as much cash as he can and does the dirty work that Tyson was supposed to do. Jaffrey goes to Dancer Blaine's shop personally. As it turns out, Zafar was after a fake ID. But not an ID for himself or Tyson, for Kareem. In the book, it's revealed late that Kareem is actually still alive, and the reports of his death in Syria were greatly exaggerated. Kareem has since strayed away from his radicalization and just wants to start over with a new life. Unfortunately for Jaffrey's future in politics, he is discovered by Claude shortly after getting the ID. A misguided act of love rather than a nefarious scandal topples the man-of-the-people politician. Jaffrey lawyers up, but his chances of becoming mayor of the West Midlands seem about as likely as Dennis Gimball becoming mayor of London. The PM was not going to be happy.
Jesus, what a clusterfuck.
Devon gets Lamb into Regent's Park to meet the one and only Molly Doran. Lamb recognizes that Molly's office seems more sparse than usual. Molly tells him that she's being let go. In the show, Molly has already been ousted, and for some reason this was a decision that Claude made.
Yeah, well, if you came to ask Molly Doran, you should have luck. Because she's been disappeared. Dispersed, in a recent rationalization. Now, if you'll excuse me, some of us have... yeah.
But in the book, of course, it was Taverner. Lamb doesn't provide much overt sympathy save for one question, which seems utterly beyond him to ask. He and Molly then share a similar dialogue to the show.
So how are you going to do it?
Eat.
Turn the lights out. Now you've been let go.
pills, I expect. That's the favored option, isn't it?
In a similar way to David, the basement and her files is Molly's home. They built the room around her. What will Molly do without her job? Take up surfing? It's just another cruel move from Taverner. The world is changing, files are rotting away, getting added to a digital machine that Molly dubs the Beast. But there isn't much of a horizon for Molly moving forward if she's being pushed out of the park. Lamb is in search of the original watering hole paper. He believes the original destabilization strategy was ancient, but that it was dusted off and pulled from the ether by Ho. Emma, having interrogated Roddy shortly before, has learned the ethnicity of the Abbotsfield crew and more about the watering hole paper. Emma regroups with Devon and Lamb, who head out in their car. Meanwhile, the Slough Horse's desperate Hail Mary to get out of the shit they're in is to find the Abbotsfield killers before they carry out the final step on their paper, seize control of the media. Their best bet is to find Kim, Roddy's girlfriend. Shirley thinks that Kim is pretty fly. They figure she's probably still alive rather than killed by the Abbotsfield crew. Earlier in the novel, Herron baited Kim's death, but it turns out Kim seduced Shin, who was sent to her house. She managed to talk him down by telling him what all men want to hear, the many ways in which they were unique. Working off her sly nature, they figure Kim is at the last place anyone would look, Ho's place. So they check his house. Kim is, in fact, in Roddy's house, hiding in a wardrobe. She arms herself with a metal coat hanger. Eventually, Louisa arrives in the room, opening the wardrobe, and a demon bursts out. Its right fist a thin metal spike. It jabbed straight at Louisa's face. The last thing she'd ever see from her left eye was a screaming witch with a pointy fist. That so nearly came true, it haunted Louisa's sleep for weeks, but she jerked her head aside in time and stepped backwards. Kim, his girlfriend, runs through the house in a screaming frenzy, pushing past River, cutting Shirley's ear, cutting Ko's chin, kneeing Ko in the balls, screaming, slashing, sprinting, all till a car door slams Kim in the face, stopping her in her tracks. This would turn out to be none other than Jackson Lamb, who always likes to open a door for a lady. So the gang is all together again. Rather than bringing their one car to Regent's Park like they do in the show, Emma, Devon, and the Slough Horses bring Kim to Slough House for interrogation. Lamb decides that Emma should be the one to do it, and it doesn't take her long to get what she needs from Kim. Kim is tough and smart, but Emma doesn't play with kitty gloves in the book. Whether they threatened her family or otherwise, Kim is an accessory to Abbotsfield. As the others wait for Emma, Louisa does some leg lifts. Catherine wraps a blanket around a sleepy Shirley. River's mind is on that goddamn paint tin, and Ko, well...
I'm in favor of execution. Maybe our entire team needs to be executed after tonight.
Kim tells Emma that the others are students who were planted by North Korea's SSD. Their van, jeep, and rifles were provided by the SSD as well. As for the final step, Kim only tells Emma that the world would be watching and something about a snake eating its own tail. Needless to say, everyone isn't too sure what to do. Devon and Emma take Kim back to the park after getting what they need. Emma does not have a hell of a lot to show for herself when she briefs Diana. If she were looking for an excuse to make Emma a slow horse, Taverner has one or two now. But in the meantime, Emma insists they focus on preventing another attack. The assumption is the seize the media step will be an attack on an event with significant media coverage. There are 2 Abbotsfield memorials which have been hastily set up. One is in Westminster Abbey and is a rededicated service for civilian casualties of war. In Abbotsfield itself, a less star-spangled service would take place. In their van, the Abbotsfield killers quell their hunger by eating old congealed noodles. Whilst munching down, they continue their infighting. After Shin fumbles with his words, Danny puts it together that Shin let Kim go when he'd said that he'd killed her. A wealth of information on them is running free. Danny once again asserts that Shin is not a worthy leader. He continues to push when all of a sudden, On took his gun from its holster and shot Danny in the face. On says that to question Shin being their leader is to question the supreme leader himself. On then resumes eating noodles. So the whole Danny situation resolved itself, but Shin is in for the ride now that he realizes how much of a true believer On is. All that Shin has left is to press on and desperately try to finish their plan. So in the third act, the ensemble characters are all waiting around for something big to go down. But with the PM in attendance, anyone pulling a gun will be Swiss cheese seconds later. Louisa and River even being there seems like taking the piss. Emma and Devon are coordinating with the armed police. All of a sudden, it hits Emma. The terrorists aren't going to attack the Abbey. What Kim said about the snake eating its own tail. They're going back to where it all started. Their target isn't the service in London. It's the small-scale memorial in Abbotsfield, which is a 3-hour drive away. At this time, Louisa decides to call Shirley, wondering why the hell she isn't at the Abbey. Through a rough connection, Shirley tells her that she isn't at the Abbey. So where are you then? I'm at Abbotsfield. The show tends to try to involve all of the characters in the finale. In Book 1, the slow horses don't directly assist in Hassan's rescue, and they split up in the third act, with Lamb and River going to the park whilst everyone else tries to find Hassan. But these books tend to put a spotlight on a particular character depending on the story. In Book 2, Louisa got the spotlight. Book 3 is Catherine's story. London Rules is Shirley's book.
Usually in any given book, there's one or two characters are taking the main roles. And I do like pairing them up in ways they haven't been paired before.
However, she's not alone in terms of characters who are in desperate need of redemption. As Shirley goes to swipe Marcus's gun from Lamb's desk, Co approaches her. He floats the idea that the killers might go for Abbotsfield rather than the Abbey. Hit it twice? I'm not sure anyone's done that before. Co tells Shirley that nobody is listening to him due to the whole accidentally killing a mayoral candidate thing. Not to mention, it's kind of crazy anyway. But Shirley decides to go with it, and the unlikely duo make the 3-hour drive to Abbotsfield in Ho's car. Sure enough, Shin, On, and Chris are in their van ready to strike, just as Shirley and Co arrive at the service. Shirley goes into the church where the memorial is being held. Marcus's gun in pocket, Shirley awkwardly stands at the back of the church. She hasn't been in a church or prayed in years. Shirley considers asking God what made it alright to let those murderers shoot up Abbotsfield. But he'd been overseeing village massacres since time immemorial. Either he'd have a foolproof answer by now, or he didn't give a damn either way. Earlier in the story, Lamb said to Catherine, "You know why bad things happen to good people? It's because of all the dickheads." Juvenile as it may sound, Lamb is kind of right. These people are dickheads. They attacked a petty, meaningless target. Their train bomb didn't go off. They chickened out of assassinating Jaffrey. The only thing this crew got right, as it were, was wildly shooting up a town of unarmed, innocent people before running away like cockroaches. And now, the dickheads are back for seconds. The killers storm the gate with their van and begin shooting at the church. Co noticed earlier that a few of the police were armed. One with a bolt rifle, two with machine guns. Shin runs towards the church whilst the police shoot and kill Chris. Co ends up picking up a rifle from a fallen officer. On, currently shooting at the police, is miraculously ignorant to Co's presence. Why wasn't this man looking his way? Co wondered. Co had a perfect sighting on him, but it was like the man hadn't even seen him. So he moved nearer, slowly but steadily, sighting down the barrel as he walked. He keeps walking, and...
bam! Popped one off at him. Headshot, clean. Dropped him.
Co sneaks up to the last of the killers, On, and shoots him at point-blank range with the rifle, literally blowing his head off. Co was asked why the gunman didn't see him coming. You know what he said? He said he approached him very, very quietly. It's such a strange place to end with Co in Book 5. But similarly to when Shirley bumps her line of coke at the end of the book, it's a technically self-destructive moment which feels triumphant. Co accidentally got Gimball killed, but he didn't end up facing any consequences. This is Spook Street after all. And as much as the maniac was shooting up a church, Co still shot a man in the back of the head. Like Patrice, an execution. But as the man said, you couldn't argue with results. Inside the church, colored hailstones stream in from the stained glass windows, and the screaming begins. Shirley immediately rushes to the door and locks it shut. If the crowd runs outside, they'll run straight into the gunfire. But the mob rushes the door anyway, and the result damn near buries Shirley alive. It's a moment reminiscent of Jon Snow in Battle of the Bastards. lost in a sea of bodies, fighting with everything you can just to get the room to draw a breath. Shirley gets so desperate that she plans to shoot herself if she can reach the gun. Sometimes characters in these stories die in the least poetic of ways. Then there was a bell. The crowd slowly calms down as they notice the vicar ringing a handbell. The shooting has also stopped, though it's not revealed why to the reader at this point. Everyone in the church then noticed Shin standing on the opposite side of the crowd, gun in hand. Shirley draws Marcus's Glock and walks through the pews towards Shin. Nobody in the church is panicking anymore. Everyone is just sitting down, sanguine. Some stare Shin down. Like Ko, Shirley keeps walking, gun in hand, while her opponent just stands there like he doesn't see her. The point is once again driven home. It's just a kid. She should kill him now, before he remembered himself. Before he taught Abbotsfield how to die again. Shirley's gun meets Shin's skin, who in a whisper utters, "I shot up the sky." The door is then broken open as the authorities arrive. The book then hard cuts to the characters back at Slough House. The building is once again graced by the presence of Diana Taverner. Diana has questions about Ko and Shirley, especially with the whole illegal gun in a church and very, very quietly thing. But those details can mostly be brushed aside. Lamb addresses that Shin is dead, announced dead on arrival at the hospital, though it's a bit strange to Lamb considering that Shirley didn't end up shooting. He tells Taverner she did an anger management course. It obviously backfired. Taverner then brings up the CCTV from Slough. She still knows that Ko and River were in all likelihood responsible for Gimball's death. Not to mention, Roddy passed off a document from the park's database. Taverner is ready to cash in her chips and close down Slough House. Enough with the headless chickens running around fucking up her ambition. Lamb, however, tells Taverner that he can make all of her dreams come true. Lamb says that 19 years ago, the watering hole paper was declassified by Charles' partner when he was still head of MI5. There was a trader in the service who was selling small-time secrets, but as the park were catching on, he took his own life. Some bright spark decided to hang his brolly on the idea. Hence, Operation Shopping List was born. The agent was given worn-out secrets made to look shiny and new. The watering hole paper was one of these secrets, something that was a decent idea on paper, but outdated in the here and now, and declassified purely because of how inapplicable it was in the modern era. The SSD were one of the interested parties. That's how they used the watering hole paper after using Ho to get it. But Roddy, correctly, knew that the document wasn't classified, which is why he was so laissez-faire about letting Kim, his girlfriend, see it. Lamb lets the details rest for a moment. Then Taverner realizes the part that makes all of her dreams come true. Whelan. Claude Whelan was the one who set Operation Shopping List in motion. He thinks about the operation earlier in the novel, and Claude recognizing the steps whilst looking at Roddy's interrogation transcript was what made Claude freeze earlier in the story. Whelan wasn't working for the SSD. He didn't give the crew instructions. Nothing that the Abbotsfield crew did is directly on him. But Claude can still be called the architect of Abbotsfield, given that the watering hole paper has the service's fingerprints on it. Luckily for Diana, however, Claude's fingerprints are the most prominent. The perfect leverage to oust Claude from the park and pave the way for Taverner to sit the throne of Regent's Park. In the final episode of Season 5, Claude tells Lamb, "I'm sure we'll meet again."
I'm sure we'll meet again.
I doubt that.
Lamb is less confident, but Lamb's been wrong before. Claude didn't join the service to climb ladders like Diana. He joined because he wanted to do some good in the world. Perhaps Claude still has one last shot at redemption, even if it's just a ghost of a chance. Molly was the one who figured out about the original watering hole paper. In exchange, she asked for Lamb to be straight up with her about Catherine. Her and Lamb have some solid dialogue, which unfortunately didn't make it into Season 5. In return for handing her first desk on a silver platter, Lamb says that he just wants to be left alone. He ensures that Molly will remain at the park, that Roddy will not face charges for the leak, and Gimball is brushed under the rug as an accident. If nothing else, there's a black guy with a face tattoo in the wind and a bunch of cash on him. As Lamb puts it, if you can't fit up a black ex-con for Gimball's death, what's the country coming to? Taverner accepts the conditions, agreeing even to smile while letting Lamb off the hook. As for Emma, Lamb simply tells Taverner that she isn't one of his Joes. That's when Lamb is taken over by a coughing fit, similar to the one he had in the first half of the book. Once again, this isn't just a coughing fit. It's said that the effort it took Lamb to pull air into his lungs would have felled a good-sized tree. Watching him, true to her word, she smiled, then left his office, closing the door behind her. Across the landing, she knocked once on Catherine Standish's door, and let herself in without waiting for a response. Catherine, at her desk, hair neatly brushed, had a stack of papers in her hand. She was tapping them on the desk's surface, aligning their edges. When she saw Taverner, she stopped. "Is he okay? Don't get me started." Taverner leaned against the office door. "Tell me, Catherine," she said, "something I've always wondered. Did Lamb ever tell you how Charles' partner really died?" When dusk at last comes, it comes from the corners where it's been waiting all day, and seeps through Slough House the way ink seeps through water, first casting tendrils, then becoming smoky black cloud, and at last being everywhere, the way it always wants to be. It leans hard against the front door, which never opens, never closes, and pushes softly on the back, which jams in all weathers. It presses down on every stair at once, making none of them creak. In locked drawers, it hunts for its infant siblings, and with each one it finds, it grows a little darker. From behind a radiator in Shirley Dander's office, it collects the memory of her unfolding a wrap of paper and snorting its contents through a 5-pound note. "Back to zero," Shirley said aloud when she was done. And though Dusk has no understanding of the words, has no vocabulary at all, it takes her tone of defiant regret and adds it to its purse. And in the companion office, it dawdles longer, savoring the remnants of the day. It can still hear River Cartwright's recent phone call, a call consisting of one word only. "River," before the connection disappeared, leaving River grasping at a vacant space. "Sid?" he might have said. A word is only a noise, and easily lost amid other sensations. For example, River's understanding that any protection Lamb might offer will only last while he's a slow horse. For Lamb will go to any lengths to protect a Joe, but would watch in mild amusement if the rest of the world hanged itself. This may not be true. There are corners in Lamb's life River has no knowledge of, but for the moment, at least, it seems that resignation is no longer an option. A conclusion that tarries in the room after River has taken leave. J.K. Coe, too, has long departed, but before doing so, stood a while, seeming to smile as Dusk peered out from a hole in the carpet. Dusk, unused to such greetings, wonders whether Coe has mistaken it for its older brother Night. Perhaps an introduction is in order. But Coe has gone before that can happen, which is maybe just as well. For those who meet the Knight on equal terms are rarely left unbruised by the encounter. Dusk lays underneath a filing cabinet in Catherine's office as Taverner explains Partner's death. How Jackson Lamb murdered Charles' partner in his bathtub. A sanctioned murder, but a murder all the same. One which precipitated Lamb's exile and gifted him Slough House. The life Catherine now leads is built on the proceeds of Jackson Lamb's crime. Diana Taverner just thought she should know that. An utterly soulless action. And why did she do it? For fun. She did it for fun. And once Taverner had left, Dusk waited for Catherine to weep or shout or rage. But it heard nothing. And when time came for it to creep from its hiding places, it found the room empty and Catherine Standish gone. So at last, Dusk comes to Jackson Lamb's office, where of course it's already waiting, and finds there is nothing to find there, for Jackson Lamb carries his own darkness with him and is careful not to leave any lying in unregarded corners. For this is the rule. In London and elsewhere, everything that happens, good and bad, Dusk clocks, absorbs, then mostly forgets. For if Dusk remembered everything, The weight would nail it in place, keeping it from its eternal search for its twin, the Dawn, which it has never met. Always, it's halfway behind, or halfway ahead. It's never known which. Soon everything will be different again, the same as it always is. Slough House slumbers, Slough House snores, but mostly, Slough House waits. Book 6, soon to be adapted into the 6th season of Slow Horses, is entitled Joe Country. The 4th book, Spook Street, says, when you lived on Spook Street, you wrapped up tight, watched every word, guarded every secret. Beyond Spook Street, it was all Joe Country, and there was no telling what came next. If you're a fan of Slow Horses on Apple TV, I cannot recommend Mick Herron's books enough. Beyond the 9 currently published mainline Slough House novels, there's also the Zoe Bowman series, which are PI mysteries rather than spy thrillers. The first of these novels, Down Cemetery Road, has recently been adapted with Emma Thompson, and it's pretty good stuff. There's also the Slough House novellas, which I referenced in this video, largely following MI5 milkman John Batchelor. If you want to see how John got mixed up in a scandal involving an American billionaire who committed suicide in their prison cell, or read a Christmas-themed Slough House tale inspired by It's a Wonderful Life, those novellas are in the collection Standing by the Wall. There's also Nobody Walks, The Secret Hours, as well as Reconstruction, a novel largely following the character Bad Sam Chapman, which also explains how Jed Moody ended up in Slough House. I don't have a sponsorship or anything, but I'd recommend checking out the audiobooks as well. Gerard Doyle has an incredible sarcastic delivery which works perfectly for the tone of the books, and his gruff voice of Jackson Lamb has become my headcanon voice at this point.
If Shirley were a TV show, which obviously she was not, but if she were, now would be a good moment for a previously on Shirley Dander.
Sean Barrett's rendition is more popular in the UK, and he does an excellent job with vocal variety, as well as a solid American accent for Frank Harkness's character.
But somewhere in his history, perhaps, lurked a memory of war. For of all those watching the visitors perform their calisthenics, he alone seemed to understand their intent. And into his eyes, already a little tearful from the sunshine, came both fear and a kind of resignation.
If you're interested in more information about characters like Lamb or Catherine, you should check out my previous video, This is Slough House, which breaks down the first 4 books and seasons of the series in this format. I will cover Season 6 when it comes out, as well as possibly the Bachelor novellas and Book 6. There are a couple of characters introduced in Book 6 and the novellas who become big players moving forward. Season 6 will be the first season to adapt 2 of Herron's books rather than 1. There are several reasons why the filmmakers may have opted for this. One reason being snow. The majority of Book 6 takes place when a whiteout snowstorm hits London and the Welsh countryside. It snows so hard that it affects the mobility of the characters and consequentially the plot. In a show, it would be impractical to have it snowing in every single scene, even just for 1 season. It's a double-edged sword, however, because the snow is a crucial element of the setting of Joe Country. It'd be like trying to make The Shining or Fargo without the snow. The story just wouldn't make any sense. Another reason the filmmakers may have altered the plot is because the villain in Book 6 is Prince Andy. By the looks of the Season 6 teaser, next season will largely be an adaptation of the 7th novel. Book 6 and the novellas, however, set up dominoes for the next slow horse who will join the stables, a man named Lek. This character is strangely absent from the trailer to Season 6 in the Season 5 finale. Then again, Louisa isn't in the trailer either, and there's speculation that she'll be in Season 6, so who knows. I'm also working on a detailed breakdown of Max Brooks' novel World War Z, which will be formatted similarly to this, though I'll have to get creative with the editing since the book still has never been adapted on screen. Slough House is hands down my favorite book series of all time, and I believe that the show improves the experience of the books, and the books do the same for the show. Thank you all so much for watching, and look forward to more book breakdowns in the future. Cheers.